Hello, and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast pre-launch special. I'm your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and over the next 13 episodes, I will be sharing both the introduction and select stories from my book, Blessings in the Streets, When God Leverages Our Valley Experiences. You have been granted exclusive access to this listening party, and my only ask is that you like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed the content that has been provided. This heartfelt true story takes you on a journey through the lives of a teenage mother and her beloved son, who was conceived by way of an affair with a married man. Together they form an unbreakable bond while bearing witness to God's grace and mercy, creating pathways to victory that surpass human understanding. Blessings in the Streets reminds us that when we are taken to places filled with darkness and pain, it is the unwavering faith in God that directs us to what is needed if we are to succeed in weathering the storm. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I present to you the introduction of Blessings in the Streets, When God Leverages Our Valley Experiences. Early one Saturday morning, as Mom was lying in bed watching television, the telephone rang. It was her friend Dina, calling to see if Mom was interested in getting together for lunch. The restaurant Dina suggested going to was one of Mom's favorites, but with limited funds available, she was somewhat hesitant to accept the invite. Mom stalled Dina on the phone momentarily with a random conversation while she frantically counted the few dollars and assorted loose change that she had in her purse. The last thing that she wanted was to risk looking foolish, having to order exclusively from the kids' menu, and her pride just would not let her admit to Dina that she was short on money. Nevertheless, Mom agreed to go anyway, despite not really being in the best financial position to do so. When they arrived at the restaurant, Mom still had not figured out how she was going to pay for her meal, nor had she revealed to Dina that doing so would be a big challenge. As she was walking through the doors, there was a woman coming in behind her with two small children. It was evident that the woman was struggling a bit with maintaining control of them, so Mom held the door open for the woman to make things a little bit easier. The woman was appreciative for the assistance and in turn thanked Mom for her act of kindness. Dina and Mom were then escorted to their table, where they engaged in small talk until the waitress returned to take their order. Seated at a table just across the way from them was the same woman with the small children that Mom had held the door open for earlier. The woman's husband accompanied the family soon thereafter. But just before Dina and Mom were actually about to place their order, the woman unexpectedly made her way over to their table. She again extended her gratitude to Mom for what took place earlier and stated that the entire conversation with her husband since he had arrived at the restaurant had only been about my mom. Quite naturally, Mom did not know how she should react to what was being said to her, but the woman clarified things before heading back to her own table. She began by telling Mom that there was something about her spirit that the woman could not seem to ignore. The woman went on to say that Mom was an incredibly special individual with a big heart, so she in turn felt compelled to personally express those sentiments to her. Mom was overwhelmed by all the kind words that this woman was bestowing upon her, but she had no idea that that was merely the beginning of what was about to come her way. Before the woman would return to her table, she made it known to Mom that her meal had been covered and to order anything that she wanted. This was most certainly surprising to Mom, and she even attempted to tell the woman that her act of kindness was unnecessary. The woman immediately responded that the decision to do so was final and that the restaurant had already been notified. Mom, of course, graciously thanked the woman, who in turn let it be known with certainty that it was her pleasure to do so. Moments such as this are what my mom often referred to as blessings in the streets. Throughout her lifetime, she would frequently experience face-to-face encounters with strangers who felt compelled to bless her in a special way. At times, such favors would address a specific need, while in other instances, God would simply be creating an opportunity for mom to be a recipient of a blessing just because he loves her. If you were fortunate enough to be with mom at the time of one of her blessings in the streets moments, you too might become a beneficiary of the blessing simply by association. I know there are those who would conclude that such occurrences were merely random acts of luck and therefore should be taken with a grain of salt. I contend, however, that after having personally seen with my own eyes the many ways God has moved in my life and that of my mother's, referring to it all as luck would be an inaccurate assessment of all that God represents. If only you knew what my mother and I have managed to endure, accomplish, and overcome throughout the years, you would fully understand that God had to be in our lives for things to turn out the way that they did. My mother found pleasure in looking for moments to share her blessings in life with others, even though it would have been so much easier to be selfish in that regard. What made her such a wonderful person to know was how she could bring smiles and happiness to many while masking the physical pain and emotional hurt she felt within. She made it a point to instill that same character, integrity, and selflessness when raising me, which in turn positioned me to experience God in ways I would have never imagined. This testimony will take you on a journey through the life of a woman who will not be remembered for her fortune and fame, but instead for her unconditional love for others. Nobody benefited more from that love and insight on life than I did as her son. Words cannot begin to express what my mother meant to me and how her presence in my life in many ways transformed me into the man I am today. It is for that reason we had such a close-knit and loving bond with each other. Mom always wanted the best for me and was willing to sacrifice without limits to make that happen. As I share our journey through life in the most transparent and intimate way possible, I pray that you are empowered by God's grace and mercy as we were, encouraged by his promise to guide you and me through all our valley experiences, and enlightened in knowing that he loves us despite our imperfections and flaws.